Welcome into a spring edition of the Belhaven Blazers Football Coaches Show. I'm Kenneth Nash, and joining me as always, head football coach Blaine McCorkle. Coach, spring, but thanks for jumping on.
You bet. It's been a while. It's good to be back with you.
It has been a while. The Blazers wrapped up their spring practice just a few weeks ago. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. We're going to kind of talk about things upcoming this offseason and this season, or this coming season in the fall, and talk about a new conference and 25th anniversary of Belhaven football, the Belhaven football program. Just kind of dive into some stuff that kind of shows the direction that Belhaven's going, continue to grow and change and transition and continue to get better. Let's start with spring practice. You guys had your few weeks of spring camp, and I was able to make it out a few times and see a lot of guys who continue to get better and better, even from the fall to the spring during the offseason. I walked out there and some of these guys were unrecognizable. The spring practice as a whole, and we can kind of dive into some details, spring practice as a whole, what did you think of your guys and how they looked and where this team's headed?
Well, I thought it was a really productive spring practice. One thing that was great is the NCAA changed the spring practice rules in Division III, which allowed us to do a little more, which was great, which is an anomaly for the NCAA. They usually take away, but they actually gave this time, so we said thank you. So we were allowed to wear helmets every day, which we were never allowed to do in the past, and we were allowed to wear shells, uppers, 4 of the days. So we really were careful with how we planned out those days to get as much work in as we could, be a little bit more physical in nature, do a few more things drill-wise, and give our guys a better chance to truly get better and evaluate what we've got coming back. So that was pretty neat. So we're excited about that. One thing, too, we were able to develop some young guys, get some guys reps that maybe didn't get a lot of reps in the fall. So you get to develop some of your young talent and then just really fine-tune most of our team, which is coming back. And we really do have a huge group of guys coming back, which we're really excited about. Our entire offensive line's back. Obviously, Colby Blunt's back. The core of our receiving group is back. Our whole defense, -1 in the secondary, and a couple defensive linemen's back. So it was really neat to see us hit the ground running and not take a lot of time to teach. You got a lot of older players that could go. So it was an exciting spring, and we got better, and I think it gave us a lot of momentum headed into the summer.
Yeah, with so many returners, and you mentioned, your entire offensive line, Colby Blunt, who was, I guess, your second running back, but he's one of the best running backs in the conference last year. A lot of your receivers, a lot of your defense is back. Does that just open it up for you as a coach to, you're not having to teach these guys a position or go through, basic scheme kind of stuff? They know what it is. They know the drill, and they're able to go out there and just get better physically and mentally. That this season this off season, does that kind of make things easier for you as a coach to have that many returners?
Yeah, it does, because they've all heard it before. There was no new faces out there who hadn't been through the process with us and kind of know the lingo and the flow of practice and things like that. So you didn't have to take quite as much time teaching these guys how to practice. You could really fine tune their individual skills. At the same time with it, what we wanted to be real careful not to do is say, we've got an older team, let's try a bunch of new things. Let's get really good at who we are. So Belhaven football will look like Belhaven football next fall. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. With a lot of really good players coming back. Plus you're playing -2 games, an entirely new schedule, so you don't have a lot of tendencies and habits that people are used to seeing. So let's go get really good at being Belhaven football players and go from there. So there was a lot of comfort in that, and sometimes there's a lot of blessing in monotony. There's a lot of monotonous things at practice, but we got better at being who we are.
Just kind of refining some of those skills and the things that y'all excel at and continue to get better and make your best assets your best assets. Talk about a couple of specific players and position groups. We can start with Colby Blunt, because I know you mentioned him at the spring kind of practice finale. It wasn't a spring game. We don't have a spring game, right?
That's right. Can't say that.
The spring kind of final practice, and you talked about him a little bit. And can you just talk about his kind of step forward this offseason? I know we've talked about that he's really even found a new gear as he kind of moves into this new role as kind of the go-to back for y'all.
Yeah, with Brad Foley graduating, I've kind of said for a while now that I felt like Colby was going to be one of those guys that once Brad graduated, Colby would really take off and blossom. You kind of wish he would have before, not that he didn't. He was a very productive player for us. He's a freshman of the year in the conference 2 years ago, had a great sophomore season a year ago. But we did really challenge Colby in the offseason to take on a new role, some new responsibilities, get a little bit bigger, get a little bit stronger, because he is going to carry the ball more, got to take some more pounding. So the first thing he did this offseason was gain 15 pounds, and he practiced in the spring as hard and with as much purpose as we've ever seen Colby practice with. He's arguably one of the best players on our team, if you want to say that. And at the same time, he received our Most Improved Award at the end of spring practice. So when a guy of that caliber with that much experience gets your Most Improved Award, he's really doing something special. So it's going to be really, really fun this fall to watch him, kind of take the reins with Brad leaving and see what he does. And he knows, too, he's got some competition behind him.
Yeah,
because,
absolutely.
Deontay Galashaw and Devin Daniels and some of those young backs, they're not too shabby either.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he knows he can't relax at all.
Absolutely. Another offensive side of things, and we've talked a lot about the offensive line, so I want to talk about quarterback position. Obviously, it's going to be a year of change for y'all at the quarterback position. Mario Asagunla, who is your starting quarterback for the past 2 seasons, has graduated. He's on your coaching staff now, which is really cool to see. Yep. But you've got some guys who've been around your program for a while, for a year, and in the case of like Ben Owens or Tim Johnson, a few years, who are going to be having to take on more responsibility. Can you just talk about the nature of that competition and seeing these guys kind of develop and try to step up?
Well, let me talk about Mario first.
Yeah.
You mentioned Mario's on our staff now, and I could not be more pleased with the initiative and the work ethic, and he's jumped in with both feet and gone to work as a coach and done a tremendous job. And I think he's a guy that I'm going to be able to give a lot more responsibilities as the fall gets here. Mm-hmm. So I'm really, really proud of what he's done transitioning from player to coach, because that's not an easy thing to do, because you're out there now having to hold accountable guys that you were in the locker room with 2 or 3 months ago. So good for Mario. We're so proud of him. But there is a lot of competition there with Tim Johnson and Ben Owens. Ben tore his ACL a year ago, the very first day of practice, so he gets that year back. So now all of a sudden he and Tim are in the same class.
Yeah.
The way we recruited it worked. You want a quarterback in every class, a senior, junior, sophomore, freshman. We had that. Well, Ben gets hurt, so that puts him and Tim in the same class. And then the COVID year hits, so those guys get that year back. So now you've got 4 quarterbacks in 2 classes. Now you've got 2 juniors and 2 sophomores. Yeah. So there is a little bit of a log jam, but that's great. It just creates competition, and competition should bring out the best in all of them, and I think it really has. We went into spring thinking it was going to be a 2-horse race with Ben and Tim, and it really was. Then Raz really, really stepped up. In the last week, we gave Raz a lot more reps to kind of see where he was, and 2, to see how those other 2 were going to respond to more competition. So we've got 4 quarterbacks that are very, very capable. I have no idea who it's going to be. Good for me. I've got 4 guys I think we can win games with, and if it's Ben, great, we're going to go win football games. If it's Tim, great, we're going to go win football games. If it's you, we got a pretty good offensive line in front of you. So we'll see what happens. But
I can get you like maybe an inch, just
that's
try
right.
to fall forward.
Turn around, hand it off, you'll be fine. But we do want to decide who that is pretty early in the preseason, and we know that. We'll probably have a preseason scrimmage against another team about halfway through. We want to have it decided by then. Yeah. I do not want to be a 2-quarterback team. I don't believe that that's a healthy thing for your locker room, even though if there was ever 2 guys that could handle it, it's those 2 guys. Yeah. And they all could. They're all really high character kids. Ben Owens stood in front of our team last week in our last team meeting for the semester, and basically told the whole team, if I'm not the quarterback, Tim, I've got your back. Yeah. And it was powerful, and it was moving, and it was pretty cool. And that doesn't mean Ben's not going to be the quarterback. He's not conceding that by any means. They just truly want to do what's best for the team, and it's for me, I'm in a can't-lose situation.
Absolutely. Let's flip to the defensive side real quick, and then we'll dive into some other stuff. Starting with the defensive line. That's probably the area where y'all lost the most regular snaps and probably the most talent. You lose Rock Scheck-Snyder, you lose Isaiah Blackman, Demetrius Brokenberry, and that's an area that was really dominant for y'all at a lot of points during last season, and a lot of it was because you had experience and you were able to rotate in and out so frequently. How important is it to get kind of the new guys who maybe saw some snaps but not a ton last year, get them up to speed, so when you go into this next season, you're still able to rotate, you're still able to have the same depth and kind of match, I guess, the same game plan with how you're going to rotate those guys in the fall?
Yeah, going in, that's the bigger question mark than the running back quarterback one for us as a staff, is who's going to replace those guys. Those are 3 great guys that you mentioned, and they're all doing great things now already that they're gone. Isaiah's playing in a league up in the Dakotas right now, so we're really proud of him continuing his career on the field. Rock's in state trooper school down in Louisiana, so he's probably not going to see this air. He's grinding away right now. And then Brokenberry's going to graduate this Saturday, and I can't wait to give him a hug when he comes off the stage. That's awesome. Proud of all 3 of those guys for what they're doing, but they did leave quite a void. Carlton Brown's back. Carlton was a second-team All-American. Carlton's a great talent, but he's not the only guy out there, so we've got to find some guys to go in there around him. We do have some good young guys that got some really, really good reps this spring, and they got better. There's no question. Jaheim Burkett really stepped up and improved his game. We're excited about that. At the same time, we're going to bring in probably 12 freshmen in the defensive line.
Wow.
That's not something that normally I like. That's not normally something I believe in. I think huge numbers in one position are culture killers, but that is such a dire need for us right now. The cream also rises to the top.
Yeah.
So we're going to see who shows up, and some of these guys coming back, who really wants to be that guy, because that is a huge point of emphasis for us this preseason, is solidifying that defensive line. A couple other guys, Chance Taylor, kind of came out of nowhere. He had been hurt a couple years, played a little bit last year, had a really good spring and got better, showed the ability to really be explosive now that he's healthy. So we're excited about him. He's got a really good chance to do some things. And that was exciting to see. And then another guy I want to mention, the defensive line, Cody McCraney, a wild man as he's known on campus. Everybody knows wild man. Has played linebacker, came in after the season was over, recognized the need, and said, Coach, I think I can gain some weight and help. And we said, sure, why not? We got nothing to lose. And to his credit, he had a really, really good spring. And on the defensive side of the ball, he was in consideration for the most improved on the defensive side. Yeah. But there wasn't really the need because it was new to him. So there is some guys coming back that have a chance too.
Absolutely. And last position kind of group to talk about, your secondary. You're getting a lot of returners in your secondary, and I think that's the continuity is that's an area where continuity is really, really key. Being able to trust trust the guy to your left or your right, or trust your safety over the top. They're going to be where they're supposed to be, and they're going to make the play when they need to make it. That continuity is one that you've now had for a couple of seasons, and we've seen that position group get better and better and make more, not just make the routine stuff, but make more impactful plays every year. Having them continue to be together and continue to develop, and it's still a fairly young group. How does that help you planning around maybe a void on defensive line where okay, we've got the secondary that can really hold up receivers or make the passing game difficult? Yeah,
well, there's a lot of comfort for them, a year ago, knowing that pass rush was going to get there in a hurry.
Yeah.
Now it's got to work the other way.
Exactly.
So they've got to know they're not real sure what you're going to get up front. Carlton's going to rush the passer, and he's going to sack a lot of quarterbacks. They know that.
Yeah.
But who else is going to be up there with him? So they've got to step their game up and not count on that as much. But we do have some great guys back there. Faison Locke will be a senior. He started every game since he's been here. Awesome kid, man.
Yeah.
Just a fun player to watch. Fun to watch him grow and develop. TJ Hersey on the other side will be a junior. He started every game he's been here, which is extra because the COVID season didn't count. Corey Tolliver is one of our captains on defense back there at free safety. We did lose Justin Percy, who is fun, intense, downhill guy.
Yeah.
But we've got some guys: Christian Lewis, Philip Naylor, Josiah Raymond is a kid that is young. He'll be a sophomore. He's got a lot of football ahead of him. But man, we're excited about him.
Yeah.
He is big and physical, can run.
Yeah.
And he is just a straight up stoic football player.
Yeah.
And I think people need to remember that name. You're going to see him pop up a lot this fall. So we're in a good spot in the secondary.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about this summer, because I know one of the things that you think is really key, and you've seen and we have evidence by, is that your guys are putting in the work when they're not around you, right? Over the summer and the off season, and you've got a lot of guys that stayed last year, and we saw the benefits of that. And I think that you're going to have a lot of guys that are staying this year. What does that do, having a player who's engaged with getting better at their craft year round, not just August to November and for a few weeks in the spring?
Well, it's as very simple as, do you want to win or not?
Yeah.
And if you want to win, you're going to be here this summer. I think we've got 73 returners on our team right now after spring. 68 of them right now have a pretty definitive plan to be here. Now, I'm not saying that those guys that aren't here don't want to win. They have different circumstances, internships, family situations, whatever. So that's not the case. But you've got 68 out of 73 guys that are committed to be here for a chunk of the summer is a phenomenal statement. The first year I was here in 2018, I think we had 3 guys here stay in town. I'm not sure that they stayed in town for the right reasons.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they really even worked out. They just happened to be here. Last year, we were mid-60s, had the best season in school history, and we went the entire season without a starter missing a game with an injury.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt there is huge value in them being here this summer. So if anybody's watching this and places to live, or you need to hire some summer workers, give me a call, because guys are coming in every day and we're trying to help them find jobs and things like that to stay here this summer, and that's real. And I say that with all sincerity. There's a lot of guys still trying to find a way. Coach, I want to be here, but have to pay for it and whatever. So,
absolutely.
But a lot of them are really committed to do that. It's been fun to see. And a lot of that credit for that goes to them believing in what they're doing in the weight room. What Aaron Wood's done with their bodies has been phenomenal. They see the results. They know it works. They know there's value in it, and they're going to find a way to be here. And I would say to have that percentage at this level would be hard to find of guys that are staying through the summer.
Yeah. Like you said, the evidence was last year, and that when we're prepping for games and getting the lineups or two deep sent out to other schools, right? It was the same two deep every single week, which was really, really nice to see. And you saw the guys that came in even after a year, completely different athletes in terms of what they could do physically and were capable of. Let's talk a little about the fall. New conference, and it's a whole different ball game now this year. Moving to the USA South Conference, and obviously we'll have a couple of familiar opponents in non-conference action. But in conference, these are a lot of guys that you maybe have seen a little bit on film, but you haven't really seen a whole lot of in person, nor have you played against them and tried to scheme against them and prep for them. Going into a new year, it's kind of a clean slate. Is that a beneficial thing, or is there comfort in kind of the routine of seeing the same teams every year?
I would say it's probably more beneficial for us than the other teams in the USA South because they all know each other. They know each other's habits and tendencies and personalities. They know nothing about us other than what they may have already studied on film. Now, we don't know anything about them either, but there's one of us and 8 of them. So the odds are kind of in your favor as far as that goes. But we're excited about it. We're going to get to take our kids to some places they've never been. We're going to get to North Carolina. We're going to go play a game in Alabama. We've got about 30 kids on our roster from Alabama, so they're going to play their home state. In a year, we'll go to Tennessee. We'll go to Virginia. We'll go to Georgia. So our kids are going to get a true college athletic experience and travel and seeing places and experiencing things. But this is a good conference. There's some good football. Huntington is as good as anybody. They've won the conference 5 of the last 6 years, been in the playoffs multiple times and done well. And that's a big challenge. That'll be our first game in the USA South, and our kids are
welcome to the new conference.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Find out in a hurry. We'll find out in a hurry. So our kids are pretty juiced up about that. And then we'll turn around the next week and go to Methodist in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and that's a long trip. We'll play on grass for the first time since I've been here, which will be pretty cool. And they are a good football team. Methodist, when I watch them, I see athletes all over the field making plays. And we will have to be ready to play when we go to Methodist the second week of conference play. Then after that, this Brevard team is a team that's been right there on the cusp of knocking off Huntington every year for several years. LaGrange is loaded with athletes. I've studied them a lot. Every time I have 5 free minutes, I pull up a USA South game and just try to get to know them. And I'm excited. It's a good brand of football. One thing what's different is we are relative to all these schools in terms of size, roster, enrollment, staff sizing, all those things. So it's going to be an exciting year and see some new things.
Absolutely. You mentioned kind of the travel aspect of things and getting to go some new places, and you recruit heavily from kind of the Southeast, and you've got a lot of guys from Alabama, like you said, and some guys will get to play in their home state. I'm from Texas. I know what that drive is like as well. 7 hours down I-20 just to get to Central Texas. Is there any kind of change in the fact that you're maybe not going to Brownwood, coming back, and then later that week turn around and going back to Abilene or whatever it is, to be able to go to different places, have guys see new things week in, week out, and travel to get new places? Is that really kind of a motivator for your guys? Motivator may not be right the word, but just kind of a new experience that kind of is exciting.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's when we announced it to the team, I asked the team in the team meeting, hey, raise your hand if you've been to Texas. Well, everybody raised their hand. Well, raise your hand if you've been to North Carolina, and there's maybe 3 or 4 guys. So that's cool, man. Just to give guys an opportunity to go see, experience. We'll go to Brevard the first week of November in the mountains. The leaves will be changing. Just things like that. Absolutely. That some of these guys have never even really thought of. The thing I think they're most excited about that we're gonna miss is the state of Alabama has now built a couple Buc-ee's. So we're gonna be okay there. And the rule always was when we went to Texas, if we win, we stop at Buc-ee's on the way back. Well, now we have Buc-ee's in Alabama that will pass, so we're not gonna lose that part. So we're pretty excited about that. But no, it's gonna be a lot of fun, and it's a great opportunity for our entire athletic department, as all of our sports are gonna have some new competition starting fall of 2022.
Absolutely. A couple more things. 25th anniversary of Belhaven football coming this fall, and I know you've got a lot of cool stuff planned. I know we've kind of talked about kind of some Belhaven this day and Belhaven football history stuff, because there is a lot of history, even just a quarter century. Belhaven's been through a lot as a program, grown a lot, had some ups and some downs, but had some really special athletes come through as well. Can you just kind of talk about the 25th anniversary and just what you're kind of telling your guys what it means to be part of Belhaven football 25 years on from its inception? Yeah,
it's a big deal to me. I really want to honor our past here at Belhaven. 25 years is not long, but as you mentioned, a lot has happened. This will be our 3rd conference in 25 years, our 2nd affiliation going from NAIA to NCAA. There's been 7 head coaches and a whole bunch of players. And I remind our guys all the time that there's 25 years of football players that sat in those seats in that team meeting room before you did.
Yeah.
Okay, and when you're gone here, there'll be hopefully 100 years after you sitting in those same seats. So what are you going to do with your time period here at Belhaven? How are you going to market? And how are you going to set up the future Blazers that come in with what you do? And how are you going to honor those that came before you? So, it kind of is our time, and we've got to take advantage of our time. I'm the 7th head coach here. I would be doing it a disservice not to give my very best to honor the work of the 6 guys in front of me, because they helped build this program into what it is now, and all 6 of them deserve my very best. I owe it to them. I owe it to the guy who's going to succeed me someday to leave it better than I found it. Hopefully it's not for a long time. I need a paycheck. So that's a big deal. So we want to really do a good job this fall of honoring those guys. We do have some things planned throughout the season on game day where we're going to have them back and be a part of some things, walk into the stadium, welcome the team on the field, possibly some guest captain things. And then homecoming obviously will be big. We're looking at a football alum golf tournament later in the summer. Where I'm not interested in doing a golf tournament to make a bunch of money. I'm interested in a golf tournament to get together, celebrate the past, plan for the future, and just recognize what those guys done and let them know that they are appreciated and loved here at Belhaven, because they all did spend a lot of time sweating, bleeding, and sacrificing to represent this great school.
Absolutely. And I'd be remiss, and I kind of skipped over this, and I want to come back to it. In the spring, you did have that kind of that penalty, or that ultimate kind of spring practice feel where you had a lot of parents and recruits and alumni come back, and it was a really cool atmosphere. You cooked out afterwards, and but one of the kind of the things that you've really hit hard on is Belhaven's had 25 good years, and we've really kind of built, the guys that have played and coached and sat in those seats have built it to what it is. But you also want to kind of establish some newer traditions, and you'll get people involved in a new way, and so. Before we wrap up, can you just kind of talk about that day? Because I got to be out there. It was a lot of fun just to see a crowd show up to a March spring practice. It's not something I've seen in my short time here, to see that many people here. And it was a lot of fun. The players had a lot of energy, and we got to recognize some players' performances and captains for the new year. Can you just talk about that?
That really was a great day and a lot of fun. And a lot of people put a lot of work in making that day happen. We had several of our current players' families, too many to really name, put a lot of effort into making sure that we had enough food and drinks and tables and all those things. It was really cool to see, and I wish I could sit here and name them all, but I would miss one of them. But it's really neat. After 5 years into this thing, for me, we've finally got a group of parents who see the value in what we're doing beyond the scoreboard. They're excited we're winning some games, but they see their sons' lives being changed, and they're being very appreciative of that, and really wanting to come together and help support the program in some bigger ways. I'm so thankful for some of the things that some of these parents are doing. So that was really cool. But it was good. We had a lot of our alums back where they were able to have them stand up and be recognized, and we had all of our incoming freshmen there. So you've got former players, current players, and future players, all 3 there together. I think we had well over 500 people there. Some of us were kind of joking. There were more people at that spring practice than we had at games my first year here. And that's just a testament to how much our program has grown, and a lot of people put a lot of work into making those things happen. So it was a great day to end spring practice. It was beautiful weather, had plenty of food, and it was just a chance for our entire Belhaven football family from all generations to come together and realize that we are all still one team regardless of years. So it was a pretty cool day.
Yeah, it was cool to see, and I got the chance to talk to a couple of your incoming guys, and they were, I think they were kind of wide-eyed and kind of seeing that atmosphere at this level, and you talk about all the time that just because it's D3 doesn't mean we can't have a D1 atmosphere, we can't have D1 facilities, we can't have D1, just we can't have a top-end football program or experience for your guys, and you're really big on that, the experience for your players. You want the college football experience. You don't want a small school experience. You don't want a Division III experience. You want the college football experience, and that was cool to see that and the support you're getting from your alumni and your parents. Coach, a lot of expectations, I think, are on you this fall, and we're excited to see it, but we're excited to see the development that they've had this spring and this summer, and excited for a new fresh slate and new conference, and hopefully a lot more winning.
That's right, and we bring on the expectations. We're all about that, and that the expectations just mean that we're growing and we're doing the things we want to do.
Absolutely.
And we'll go across the street here in 129 days and see how much better we've got.
You're not counting down though, right?
We've been counting down for a while. It'll be here soon, and we can't wait, and our kids will be excited. But there's a lot of work to do between now and then.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time this spring. Hopefully we can maybe have one more show sometime between now and the start of the season, and then we'll ramp up for another football season. But Coach, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.